Chapter 11. The Judiciary. Part 1 General. Article 125 The Judicial Power of Ghana. 1. Justice emanates from the people and shall be administered in the name of the Republic by the judiciary, which shall be independent and subject only to this Constitution. 2. Citizens may exercise popular participation in the administration of justice through the institutions of public and customary tribunals and the jury and assessor systems. 3. The judicial power of Ghana shall be vested in the judiciary. Accordingly, neither the President nor Parliament nor any organ or agency of the President or Parliament shall have or be given final judicial power. 4. The Chief Justice shall, subject to this Constitution, be the head of the judiciary and shall be responsible for the administration and supervision of the judiciary. 5. The judiciary shall have jurisdiction in all matters civil and criminal, including matters relating to this Constitution, and such other jurisdiction as Parliament may, by law, confer on it. Article 126 Composition and Mode of Exercise of Power of Judiciary. 1. The judiciary shall consist of a. The Superior Court of Judicature comprising 1. The Supreme Court, 2. The Court of Appeal, and 3. The High Court and Regional Tribunals. b. Such lower courts or tribunals as Parliament may by law establish. 2. The Superior Courts shall be Superior Courts of Record and shall have the power to commit for contempt to themselves and all such powers as were vested in a court of record immediately before the coming into force of this Constitution. 3. Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution or as may otherwise be ordered by a court in the interest of public morality, public safety, or public order, the proceedings of every court shall be held in public. 4. In the exercise of the judicial power conferred on the judiciary by this Constitution or any other law, the superior courts may, in relation to any matter within their jurisdiction, issue such orders and directions as may be necessary to ensure the enforcement of any judgment, decree, or order of those courts. Article 127 Independence of the Judiciary. 1. In the exercise of the judicial power of Ghana, the judiciary, in both its judicial and administrative functions, including financial administration, is subject only to this Constitution and shall not be the subject to the control or direction of any person or authority. 2. Neither the President nor Parliament nor any person acting under the authority of the President or Parliament nor any other person whatsoever shall interfere with judges or judicial officers or other persons exercising judicial power, in the exercise of their judicial functions, and all organs and agencies of the state shall accord to the court such assistance as the courts may reasonably require, to protect the independence, dignity, and effectiveness of the courts, subject to this Constitution. 3. A justice of a superior court, or any person exercising judicial power, shall not be liable to any action or suit for any act or omission by him in the exercise of the judicial power. 4. The administrative expenses of the judiciary, including all salaries, allowances, gratuities and pensions payable to or in respect of persons serving in the judiciary, shall be charged on the Consolidated Fund. 5. The salary, allowances, privileges and rights in respect of leave of absence, gratuity, pension and other conditions of service of a justice of the Superior Court or any judicial officer or other person exercising judicial power, shall not be varied to his disadvantage. 6. Funds voted by Parliament, or charged on the Consolidated Fund by this Constitution for the judiciary, shall be released to the judiciary, in quarterly installments. 7. For the purposes of Clause L of this article, financial administration includes the operation of banking facilities by the judiciary without the interference of any person or authority, other than for the purposes of audit by the Auditor General, of the funds voted by Parliament or charged on the Consolidated fund by this Constitution or any other law, for the purposes of defraying the expenses of the judiciary in respect of which the funds were voted or charged. Part 2. The Supreme Court. Article 128. Composition of Supreme Court and qualifications of its justices. 1. The Supreme Court shall consist of the Chief Justice and not less than 9 other justices of the Supreme Court. 2. The Supreme Court shall be duly constituted for its work by not less than 5 Supreme Court justices, except as otherwise provided in Article 133 of this Constitution. 3. The Chief Justice shall preside at sittings of the Supreme Court and in his absence, the most senior of the justices of the Supreme Court, as constituted, shall preside. 4. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a justice of the Supreme Court unless he is of high moral character and proven integrity and is of not less than 15 years standing as a lawyer. Article 129. General Jurisdiction of Supreme Court. 1. The Supreme Court shall be the final court of appeal and shall have such appellate and other jurisdiction as may be conferred on it by this Constitution or by any other law. 2. The Supreme Court shall not be bound to follow the decisions of any other court. 3. The Supreme Court may, while treating its own previous decisions as normally binding, depart from a previous decision when it appears to it right to do so, and all other courts shall be bound to follow the decisions of the Supreme Court on questions of law. 4. For the purposes of hearing and determining a matter within its jurisdiction and the amendment, execution or the enforcement of a judgment or order made on any matter, and for the purposes of any other authority, expressly or by necessary implication given to the Supreme Court by this Constitution or any other law, the Supreme Court shall have all the powers, authority, and jurisdiction vested in any court established by this Constitution or any other law. Article 130. Original Jurisdiction of Supreme Court. 1. Subject to the jurisdiction of the High Court in the enforcement of the fundamental human rights and freedoms as provided in Article 33 of this Constitution, the Supreme Court shall have exclusive original jurisdiction in a. all matters relating to the enforcement or interpretation of this Constitution, and b. all matters arising as to whether an enactment was made in excess of the powers conferred on Parliament or any other authority or person by law or under this Constitution. 2. Where an issue that relates to a matter or question referred to in Clause 1 of this article arises in any proceedings in a court other than the Supreme Court, that court shall stay the proceedings and refer the question of law involved to the Supreme Court for determination, and the court in which the question arose shall dispose of the case in accordance with the decision of the Supreme Court. Article 131. Appellate Jurisdiction of Supreme Court. 1. An appeal shall lie from a judgment of the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. A. As of right in a civil or criminal cause or matter in respect of which an appeal has been brought to the Court of Appeal from a judgment of the High Court or a regional tribunal in the exercise of its original jurisdiction, or b. with the leave of the Court of Appeal, in any other cause or matter, where the case was commenced in a court lower than the High Court or a regional tribunal and where the Court of Appeal is satisfied that the case involves a substantial question of law or is in the public interest. 2. Notwithstanding Clause 1 of this article, the Supreme Court may entertain an application for special leave to appeal to the Supreme Court in any cause or matter, civil or criminal, and may grant leave accordingly. 3. The Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction, to the exclusion of the Court of Appeal, to determine matters relating to the conviction or otherwise of a person for high treason or treason by the High Court. 4. An appeal from a decision of the Judicial Committee of the National House of Chiefs shall lie to the Supreme Court with the leave of that Judicial Committee or the Supreme Court. Article 132. Supervisory Jurisdiction of Supreme Court. The Supreme Court shall have supervisory jurisdiction over all courts and over any adjudicating Authority and may, in the exercise of that supervisory jurisdiction, issue orders and directions for the purpose of enforcing or securing the enforcement of its supervisory power. Article 133 Power of Supreme Court to review its decisions. 1. The Supreme Court may review any decision made or given by it on such grounds and subject to such conditions as may be prescribed by rules of court. 2. The Supreme Court, when reviewing its decisions under this article, shall be constituted by not less than 7 justices of the Supreme Court. Skips Articles 134 and 135. Part 3. The Court of Appeal. Article 136 Composition of the Court of Appeal and qualifications of its justices. 1. The Court of Appeal shall consist of a. The Chief Justice. b. Subject to clauses 2 and 3 of this article, not less than 10 justices of the Court of Appeal, and c. Such other justices of the Superior Court of Judicature as the Chief Justice may, for the determination of a particular cause or matter by writing signed by him, request to sit in the Court of Appeal for any specified period. 2. The Court of Appeal shall be duly constituted by any 3 of the justices referred to in Clause 1 of this article, and when so constituted, the most senior of the justices shall preside. 3. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a justice of the Court of Appeal unless he is of high moral character and proven integrity and is of not less than 12 years standing as a lawyer. 4. The Chief Justice may create such divisions of the Court of Appeal as he considers necessary to sit in such places as he may determine. 5. Subject to Clause 3 of Article 129 of this Constitution, the Court of Appeal shall be bound by its own previous decisions, and all courts lower than the Court of Appeal shall follow the decisions of the Court of Appeal on questions of law. Article 137 Jurisdiction of Court of Appeal. 1. The Court of Appeal shall have jurisdiction throughout Ghana to hear and determine, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, appeals from a judgment, decree, or order of the High Court and regional tribunals and such other appellate jurisdiction as may be conferred on it by this Constitution or any other law. 2. Except as otherwise provided in this Constitution, an appeal shall lie as of right from a judgment, decree or order of the High Court and a regional tribunal to the Court of Appeal. 3. For the purposes of hearing and determining an appeal within its jurisdiction and the amendment, execution or the enforcement of a judgment or order made on any appeal, and, for the purposes of any other authority expressly or by necessary implication given to the Court of Appeal by this Constitution or any other law, the Court of Appeal shall have all the powers, authority and jurisdiction vested in the court from which the appeal is brought. Article 138 Powers of a single Justice of Court of Appeal. A single Justice of the Court of Appeal may exercise a power vested in the Court of Appeal, not involving the decision of a cause or matter before the Court of Appeal, except that a. In criminal matters, where the justice refuses or grants an application in the exercise of any such power, a person affected by it is entitled to have the application determined by the Court of Appeal as duly constituted, and b. In civil matters, any order, direction or decision made or given in exercise of the powers conferred by this article, may be varied, discharged or reversed by the Court of Appeal as duly constituted. Part for the High Court. Article 139 Position of High Court and qualifications of its justices. 1. The High Court shall consist of a. The Chief Justice. b. Not less than 20 justices of the High Court, and c. Such other justices of the Superior Court of Judicature as the Chief Justice may, by writing signed by him, request to sit as High Court justices for any period. 2. The High Court shall be constituted a. By a single justice of the court, or b. By a single justice of the court and jury, or c. by a single justice of the court with assessors, or d. by 3 justices of the court for the trial of the offense of high treason or treason as required by Article 19 of this Constitution. 3. There shall be in the High Court such divisions consisting of such number of justices respectively as the Chief Justice may determine. 4. A person shall not be qualified for appointment as a justice of the High Court unless he is a person of high moral character and proven integrity and is of at least 10 years standing as a lawyer. Article 140 Jurisdiction of the High Court. 1. The High Court shall, subject to the provisions of this Constitution, have jurisdiction in all matters and, in particular, in civil and criminal matters and such original, appellate and other jurisdiction as may be conferred on it by this Constitution or any other law. 2. The High Court shall have jurisdiction to enforce the fundamental human rights and freedoms guaranteed by this Constitution. 3. The High Court shall have no power, in a trial for the offense of high treason or treason, to convict any person for an offense other than high treason or treason. 4. A justice of the High Court may, in accordance with rules of court, exercise in court or in chambers, or any of the jurisdiction vested in the High Court by this Constitution or any other law. 5. For the purposes of hearing and determining an appeal within its jurisdiction and the amendment, execution or the enforcement of a judgment or order made on any appeal, and for the purposes of any other authority, expressly or by necessary implication given to the High Court by this Constitution or any other law, the High Court shall have all the powers, authority, and jurisdiction vested in the court from which the appeal is brought. Article 141 Supervisory Jurisdiction of the High Court. The High Court shall have supervisory jurisdiction over all lower courts and any lower adjudicating authority, and may, in the exercise of that jurisdiction, issue orders and directions for the purpose of enforcing or securing the enforcement of its supervisory powers.